Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a universally accepted societal rule and we're flipping it completely upside down. You know the saying, right? We've heard it since we were little kids. Winners never quit and quitters never win. But what if that conventional wisdom is actually the exact thing holding you back from greatness? We're going to dive right into Seth Godin's incredibly counterintuitive philosophy on strategic quitting. We'll explore how consciously choosing to quit the right things at the exact right time might literally be the prerequisite for becoming the absolute best in the world. Let's hit the ground running with this really bold thought from Godin. All our successes are the same. All our failures, too. It's a pretty provocative statement, isn't it? He's basically arguing that we succeed when we do something truly remarkable, when we become the absolute best in the world at what we do. The formula for winning? It's surprisingly consistent. But here's the kicker. The formula for failing is just as predictable. We fail when we give up way too soon. Or, honestly, even worse, when we absolutely refuse to give up at all. This sets an urgent tone for us today. Mastering the art of success is intimately, inextricably tied to mastering the art of failure. All right, let's get into Section 1, the cost of mediocrity, or why we tend to spread ourselves way too thin. Okay, let's dive into this. In our hyper-connected modern lives, we are constantly racing against the clock, juggling, a million different priorities? And that leads us to a very specific kind of failure. See, there's the right failure. That's hitting a wall and giving up too early on something that was actually worth the struggle. We all know that awful feeling. But then there's the wrong failure. This is when we get completely distracted by endless tasks, endless obligations, and random side projects that we just don't have the guts to quit. So we just keep plodding along, right? Not making a dent, absolutely terrified of the stigma of being a quitter, all while our real potential just slowly drains away. Let's look at how this actually plays out in a real-world business scenario. Godin brings up the Senseo pod machine. Why didn't this thing become a massive everywhere-you-look phenomenon? Well, it's simple. They spread their resources way too thin. Barely any stores promoted the pods, so word of mouth just never spread. They couldn't hit critical mass. There were simply too many places for their marketing message to go, and nowhere near enough focused resources to actually get it there. It's a classic trap. When you try to be everywhere and do everything, you end up making an impact absolutely nowhere. Which brings us to an incredibly direct challenge from Godin. He says, how dare you waste it? You and your organization have the power to change everything. How dare you settle for mediocre, just because you're busy coping with too many things on your agenda, racing against the clock to get it all done? Wow. I mean, that is not just business strategy, that is a personal wake-up call right to the gut. Being busy isn't a badge of honor, not if it means you're squandering your astonishing potential on things that just do not matter.
Moving on to Section 2, assaulting the dip and marshaling your resources.
So, if spreading ourselves too thin is the core problem, what's the actual fix? Well, we need to marshal all of our available resources and point them directly at the challenge that really matters. But to do that, we got to know what we're actually dealing with. First up is the dip. This is that brutal, grueling phase right between starting a new endeavor and actually achieving mastery. It is hard, it's exhausting, but it is a challenge worth throwing literally all your resources at because the reward on the other side is scarcity and massive value. On the flip side, we have the cul-de-sac, which is French for dead end. This is a situation where you just work and work and work, but nothing ever really changes. Persistence in a cul-de-sac is just a waste. It won't pay off in the long run. The truly strategic quitter, they abandon those cul-de-sacs immediately, specifically to save all their energy to push through the dip. And this brilliantly illustrates the mindset shift you need. It's almost impossible to overinvest in becoming the market leader. Think about that for a second. If you've identified a dip that leads straight to you being the absolute best in your space, you must throw everything you have at it. You can't go halfway. You can't hedge your bets. You have to completely over-deliver and literally overwhelm the challenge. Which leads us to Section 3, questions before you quit. This is the evaluation phase. Of course, knowing the theory is one thing, but how do we figure out exactly what to stick with? And what to completely rip off our daily agenda? Godin gives us a really precise checklist for this. First, you have to ask yourself honestly, is what I'm doing right now a dip, a cliff, or a cul-de-sac? If it is a dead-end cul-de-sac, is there any way you can change it into a dip? Will your persistence actually pay off in the long run? And then, perhaps the absolute most vital question, if I quit this current task, will it increase my ability to conquer a much more important dip? Here is the golden rule, folks. You need to ask these questions and decide to quit before you even start. You make the decision now, not when you are right in the middle of the pain, begging to quit just to make the discomfort stop. Consider this highly specific rhetorical question Godin poses. Does it make sense to submit a resume to every single ad on Craigslist just to see what happens? I mean, it sounds totally ridiculous when you say it out loud, doesn't it? Yet this is exactly how most people run their careers. It's how they run their businesses. They try a little bit of absolutely everything, just hoping something magically sticks. They completely refuse to focus. And listen, if you don't focus your efforts, you are essentially just spamming the universe with mediocrity instead of becoming an undeniable force in one specific area. All right, final part, Section 4, Best in the World, Redefining Your Market. When you finally quit those cul-de-sacs, you reclaim a massive amount of time, energy, and resources, and you use all of that to become the absolute best in the world at the right thing. So the crucial point here is how we actually define the world. If you say, I want to be the best graphic designer in the world, well, that's a nearly impossible dip to get through. The entire globe is just way too big. So Godin asks a genius question. Can we make the world smaller? Who decides what best is? You do. You do it by redefining your market. Maybe you can't be the best designer in the whole world, but you can absolutely marshal your resources to become the best freelance graphic designer for organic food startups in the Pacific Northwest. By shrinking the world, you create a dip you can actually conquer. Now, what's really interesting here is the sheer variety of what best in the world actually looks like. The Toyota Prius, JetBlue, Starbucks, the iPod, Jackson Pollock, Tony Hawk, Elvis, Rolex, the Eiffel Tower. What do a legendary skateboarder, a fast food ketchup brand, and a Parisian monument have in common? Literally nothing, except that in their own uniquely defined worlds, they are the absolute unquestioned best. They are remarkable. This proves that dominating your niche isn't limited by your industry, your size, or your format. It's limited only by your willingness to fully 100% commit to it. But let's be real, this level of commitment is terrifying, which brings up a really profound realization from the book. Are you avoiding the remarkable as a way of quitting without quitting? If it scares you, it might be a good thing to try. Often, playing it safe, just keeping your head down, and staying perfectly busy with mediocre tasks, it's really just a cowardly way of quitting. You haven't officially walked away, sure, but you've quit on your own potential. Fear is usually a compass. If a project or a massive goal scares you because of how much it's going to demand from you, that fear is pointing directly at the remarkable thing you should be doing. So we'll wrap up our explainer today with this final provocative thought. If you look at your current path and you realize deep down it's a cul-de-sac and you know you're eventually going to quit anyway, ask yourself this. Is there something dramatic I can do right now instead that might completely change the game? Please don't just fade away into mediocrity. Use the act of quitting as a powerful, aggressive maneuver to clear your plate. Quit the wrong things right now, today, so you can free up the energy to relentlessly assault the dip that actually matters. The world is waiting for you to be remarkable. So, what are you going to quit today?